We're being just an interview. Okay, so you can pretty much just tell us what you were sharing over there really quick.
Well, this is a devastating day for America. Georgia is embarrassed and ashamed of this Fulton County DA that's abusing her office to go after and arrest the former president of the United States, which is Joe Biden's top political opponent. And I'll tell you right now, in the state of Georgia, I met with GMA last week. This is a statistic that everyone needs to understand. In the state of Georgia, a child is sold for sex. A child is sold for sex over 7,200 times every single month. But here, this disgrace of an attorney, the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, is abusing her power to go after and arrest Trump. She's not using her power of prosecution to go after child sex traffickers, go after gang members that are linked to the Mexican cartels. She's not doing this to go after murderers. We have the same murder rate as Chicago. This is an embarrassment.
All this, Marjorie?
Why are you here?
You're talking about sex trafficking. What's your source?
What's your source?
GMA.
Who's GMA?
Georgia Emergency Management Agency.
Have you had any communication?
A government agency. That is a
Marjorie, have you had any communication with the former president at all today?
Yes, of course. I'm in constant communication with him. I support President Trump. I just came from the Republican debate in Milwaukee last night, landed here this morning. The reason why I'm here is because this is my home state. I was born and raised in the state of Georgia, and I'm here as a Georgian. I'm also here as a member of Congress. We're going to be standing up against the weaponized government. We're launching an investigation into Fani Willis through the Judiciary Committee, and we go back into session.
Last question about Fani Willis. You know that she did get the approval for the trial date to be moved up. Do you have any comment on that?
My comment to Fani Willis is we're going to make sure that she loses her job.
What do you think she's done wrong? What did she do wrong?
This is called weaponized government.
What does that mean?
The weaponized government is she's using her office for politics.
Okay, so
she's going after Joe Biden's top political opponent.
So you don't think
going
Trump
to win the
made any of
Republican
these?
primary? No, these are fake charges. Why? He's being arrested because he uses freedom of speech. He's not allowed to say what he thinks and feels about his 2020 election. He didn't break the law. Joe Biden broke the law.
Do you have any concern?
Joe Biden
Do you have any concerns that any of the other 19
over 50 years using people just like you,
not like me.
tens of millions, yes, just like you. No, you probably voted for him. That's your president.
Do you have any concerns that any of the people that are indicted are going to take any deals in this case?
I don't know. Those are questions for their attorneys, but I think it's shameful. These people are having to pay for attorneys, have to defend themselves. They are having to be the victim of the weaponized government happening here in Georgia, and our state legislature needs to do something about it.
Has the former president asked you to be his running mate, or have you had any conversations with him about that?
The president will pick who he chooses for his running mate. Right now, I'm serving Georgia's 14th congressional district.
How is Trump still endorse President Trump?
Yeah.
The president's feeling outraged. He's the victim of the weaponized government. This should not be happening. You know, the Democrat Party should be able to run on their own policies, and their policies right now are nearly $4 a gallon gasoline. Their policies right now, they've doubled food prices with inflation. Their policies right now are wide open borders where drugs, over 300 fentanyl deaths every single day in America. Here in our state, over 250% increase in fentanyl deaths. That's Fani Willis, everybody. That's what she's doing. She's not prosecuting these crimes.
Fani Willis is bringing fentanyl into the country.
Yeah, you're saying they're weaponizing the government, but he can just fight this in court if it's
Why should he? No, why should he?
Shouldn't every person have their day in court, though?
Why should he even be in court? Why? Because he said my election was stolen? Is that a crime? Hillary Clinton said the same thing. Guess what? Stacey Abrams said the same thing right here in Georgia when she ran for governor. And every single Democrat all came out and said the elections were stolen. The elections were stolen. Did anyone see?
What about Brad Raffensperger, though? Brad Raffensperger, he straight up said that there was no issues in our. What is Brad Raffensperger?
No, I'm sorry. We had to hire an attorney and do a FOIA request because my ex-husband was told that he voted by absentee ballot. You guys look this up. This is in the news. He was told when he showed up to vote in 2020 that he voted by absentee ballot, and he said, no, I didn't. I didn't even request one. And then he had to sign an affidavit to surrender an absentee ballot that he never voted on. And we were accused and called liars for that until we hired an attorney and we had to FOIA the information. And guess what? It turns out it was all true, exactly what he said. So there was fraud in the election, and it's a serious issue. And I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, you should care about your elections.
Have you spoken with Trump
You say
today?
you've spoken with him. Do you expect to see him?
President Trump will be coming in for this shameful event, and then he'll be leaving. And I don't blame him. I'm sure he'll be ready to go.
What do you think about the debate yesterday? Vivek Ramaswamy.
I thought Vivek did a good job. He actually stood up for America First policies, and he was the only one on the stage that made any sense. The rest of them sounded like George Bush Republicans.
So is Vivek 24 or VP Vivek?
Do you still endorse Trump?
I'm Trump 24. Trump
Right.
24.
Will you speak to his supporters? They're at-
They say that America is divided politically, and we kind of agree. There's the dumb, and then there's us. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that too harsh for the little snowflakes? This is Right, Left, and Center. This is Right, Left, and Center. No matter what's going on in today's news, politics, social, environment, culture, we're talking about it unabashedly. Real, raw, direct, and funny. Let's rock. This is Right, Left, and Center. And this is your host, Will Jackson.
Woo. You can make this shit up if you wanted to. Welcome back, folks. Well, 19 defendants has checked in. One couldn't post bail. And they all think that Fani Willis is reaching too far. If you've listened to my episodes, and I said Fani Willis is going to be the headliner, she's the one that's going to go ahead and get these jackwagons arrested, booked, photographed, fingerprinted, and tried. Well before Jack Smith. Or even Alvin Bragg. You know, we got so much to unpack. Starting out with Jacksonville. And there's so much going on with the hatred, the bigotry, the racism, the white supremacy. And we're going to talk about the two-time impeached, thrice indicted 45th president, former, who doesn't even deserve that title, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh my goodness. I just love listening to a dumb bitch. I really do. My hearts go out to the families that's been affected in Jacksonville. And also the folks in Hawaii. I'm actually dropping my flag half-staff for these beautiful folks who have perished. And of course, on my list is Jim Jordan, dumbass. We'll get into that. And we're going to talk about gun violence again. And I still haven't heard from my representative from the 50th District. Of course, I don't believe I will, but hey, it is what it is. But I want to start out with Jacksonville. A sad day, a very sad day. I mean, we've had so many sad days that this is actually at the top of the list. I'm dropping my flag, half-staff, for these folks. I hope you got yours, because I got mine. Let's do this.
Side by side with our law enforcement partners, our mayor, city leaders, to share the heartbreaking news that Jacksonville has suffered the loss of 3 precious lives at the hands of an active shooter. This afternoon, a little after 1 p.m., an individual we have not yet officially identified entered a Dollar Tree in the Newtown area of Jacksonville, outfitted with a tactical vest, armed with an AR-style rifle, and a handgun. Then the shooter killed 3 people before turning the gun on himself, taking his own life. Other than the 3 individuals killed and the shooter himself, there are no additional people who suffered gunshot wounds. We are not identifying the deceased victims at this time, but I can tell you that there are 2 male victims and 1 female victim. All of the deceased victims are black. Multiple units from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office responded to this active shooter scene, as did members of Jacksonville Fire Rescue, our mayor, and city leaders. We are still in the very early stages of this investigation, so there's a lot of information that we don't know at this time. I will share with you the information that I have been able to verify. The shooter was believed to have resided in Clay County with his parents. He was involved in a 2016 domestic call in Clay County with no arrest. In 2017, he did have a Baker Act. We know that at 11:39 a.m. today, Sheriff Cook gave us information that he left Clay County, headed to Jacksonville. At 1:18 p.m., he texted his father and told his father to check his computer. At 1:53 p.m., the shooter's family members called the Clay County Sheriff's Office. By that time, he had already began shooting in Jacksonville. The Clay County Sheriff's Office, who has been assisting our agency with this investigation, received information after the shooting that the shooter had authored several manifestos, one to his parents, one to the media, and one to federal agents. Portions of these manifestos detailed the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people. He wanted to kill niggers. That's the one and only time I'll use that word. I want to be very clear that there is absolutely no evidence that the shooter is part of any large group. We know that he acted completely alone. If you take a look at the images on the screen, you'll be able to see what he utilized. The weapons that the shooter used today are a Glock and an AR-15 style rifle. This is a dark day in Jacksonville's history. Any loss of life is tragic, but the hate that motivated the shooter's killing spree adds an additional layer of heartbreak. There's no place for hate in our community, and this is not Jacksonville. As a member of this Jacksonville community, I am sickened by this cowardly shooter's personal ideology of hate. Homicide detectives are actively investigating this tragedy, and despite the fact that the shooter is dead, they will continue to investigate this until we have a complete understanding of what happened and even why he did it. Our Jacksonville community collectively cries tonight. To the victims and victims' families, our thoughts and prayers are with you now and will remain with you. Please know that in the face of this tragedy, this agency and our city stands with you. We stand united and resolved in our commitment to accountability. We stand united with each other. Those who have personally suffered loss and those who have been touched by this tragedy, we are with you. We stand united and resolved against all forms of hate. And at this time, I'll take any questions that I can.
Sheriff Waters, does the Sheriff's Office consider this a mass shooting, and why or why not?
Yes, it's a mass shooting. It's an active shooting. Whatever you want to label it, it's a shooting that should not have happened under any circumstances. I don't think names of the shooting really matter. What matters is 3 people lost their life today.
Sheriff, there are reports that the suspect may have been seen on Edward Warren University at first and then made his way down the road. Can you confirm that? Was the plan to maybe start to go there?
I can't tell you what his mindset was while he was there, but he did go there, and he did put his vest on and a mask on, and then went directly to Dollar General.
Sheriff, did Edward Waters University catch the incident on camera, on their cameras?
That's still part of our investigative process.
How does the community, the Sheriff's Office, everything that you see side by side, how do you go about healing that process to know that those type of ideologies still exist today? And you said it's not Jacksonville, but I mean, obviously, if there's manipulation there with Clay in the metro area, there's still people who have those thoughts.
Well, you see us standing here together, right? So none of that's an outlier. That doesn't represent who we are as a city and who we are as a people, right? Our mayor's here. Our political leaders from all over the city are here. And it shows where we stand and how we believe as a community. You know, politics aside, none of that matters. What matters is who we are as a community. We stand together as a community. We live together as a community. We fight together as a community. And when someone comes into our city and does this, we're not going to stand for it, and we don't accept it. So we're always going to fight against it.
Mayor, you were out at the scene. Your thoughts about this as you stood among the community?
I'm gonna take this off, Sheriff, because they're not going to see me behind there. I'm sorry, Dan.
You were out at the scene. Your thoughts about how the community is dealing with this, your reaction to what has hit this community again?
Well, I'm heartbroken, obviously. This is a community that has suffered again and again. So many times, this is where we end up. And there were so many people out today, obviously grieving, upset. It's just something that should not and must not continue to happen in our community. It's too often the same folks. And this type of hate, you know, this type of, you see the swastikas on the gun. We must do everything that we can. We must do everything that we can to dissuade this type of hate. And so I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating this is for all of us, because we've seen it too much. We've seen it too much. And this, as you know, was the anniversary of when we had the shooting at the landing. And I believe that was also indicated in the manifesto that he was aware of that, and perhaps chose this date in alignment with that. So there's a lot here. But as the sheriff said, this was a hate-filled crime, and we just shouldn't have that kind of hate in Jacksonville.
Does anyone know what the Baker Act was about back in 2017?
So that's still under investigation also. And before we go any further, I want to give Sherry Onks, the SAC for our local FBI, an opportunity to address you all about a few things. Sherry.
Thank you, Sheriff Waters. First, on behalf of the entire FBI, I want to express my deepest sympathies to the loved ones of those innocent souls that we lost in today's attack. No life should ever be lost to this kind of violence, and our thoughts are with the families tonight after this tragic event. Immediately upon learning about the shooting, FBI agents rushed to the scene to assist our partners at JSO. As we speak, members of our evidence response team and our investigative specialists continue to work alongside JSO to ensure every FBI resource is brought to bear to aid in this investigation. I have committed to Sheriff Waters that our assistance will continue for as long as necessary. In addition, FBI Jacksonville is coordinating with the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Florida. We have opened a federal civil rights investigation, and we will pursue this incident as a hate crime. Hate crimes are always and will always remain a top priority for the FBI because they are not only attack on a victim, they are also meant to threaten and intimidate an entire community. Everyone has a right to feel safe in their communities and in their homes, and I assure you, the FBI will bring every resource we have to bear to bring justice to the families of those innocent lives we lost today. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Sheriff Waters.
Sheriff Merrick, you also mentioned swastikas were found on the gun.
You saw the pictures of the gun.
Yeah.
Did he own both those guns, or were those parents' guns?
No, they were not his. Those were not his parents' guns. I can't say that he owned them, but I know his parents did. His parents didn't want them in their house.
Did he legally purchase those guns?
From what we can tell, we don't know yet. That's still a deep part of the investigation we have to get into.
Did he ever have the guns taken away by the red flag law?
Again, that's something we can't get into because we don't know yet. I wanted to get out here. I want to tell you as much as we could right now so that our community will know, one, that there's no danger, no further danger, and two, I want to be as transparent as possible. I want to let you know exactly what his intentions were because there's no reason not to tell our community what went on. And I think that's important for people to know.
There was also a shooting at a White Sox game last night. There was a shooting earlier this morning in Boston. Obviously, we have the Jags tonight. I mean, is there going to be any sort of extra precautions in the near future for those type of big events that people may?
Jags games and events are very well covered. And one thing has absolutely nothing to do with the other. This was quite frankly a maniac who decided he wanted to take lives.
Was this a targeted crime, Sheriff, or did he just pick a community and it was opportunity?
No, he targeted a certain group of people, and that's black people. That's what he said he wanted to kill, and that's very clear. And I don't know that the targets were specific, but I know that any member of that race at that time was in danger of the black race. Any other questions?
Sheriff Waters, I was going to ask, is there any reason why your office is not identifying him yet? Can you clarify why not?
Yeah, I'd love to identify him, but we're not identifying him because we don't have a positive identification. It's very important for us as an agency to make sure that we have an official positive ID. When a person is deceased in Jacksonville, that body is in the custody of the medical examiner's office. So we have to wait until we can make a positive ID. Once we do that, then I'll tell you exactly who he is.
Jumping off that real quick, is there, can you give it an age range? Living with parents?
Early 20s.
Early 20s, white suspect?
White male. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop this right here because here's the thing.
Dollar General.
First of all, I want to say that reporters, some of you reporters are just dumb as fuck. Yeah, I said it, dumb as fuck. You keep asking the same fucking questions thinking that you're going to get a different response. And the reality is that racism is more prevalent now. Why? Because of Donald Trump and people like Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, and the rest of these knuckleheads that are out there. And everyone who seems to follow Trump and deal with this situation with Trump and his rhetoric and his bullshit tends to end up in jail. Now, this guy, who we don't know yet, but we will know in the upcoming weeks, next week sometime, that he's being that white supremacist, and I've talked about this before. There's three things you can count on from white supremacy. One, they target a race. That's one. Two, they're bitches and cowards. They don't know how to just knuckle up or stand outside and voice their opinion, which is their constitutional right. And finally, they always seem to mask up and then kill themselves. That's how fucking dumb they are. That's what makes them so fucking dangerous. They are an embarrassment to this country, just like Donald Trump, just like all these 19 other individuals who've been indicted. You know, here's what I'm gonna say, and you're gonna hear me say this throughout my cast. 4 plus 91 equals 45. 4 plus 91 equals 45. That is the common denominator. Okay? That's what it is. Because I'm going to show you and I'm going to relive with you some of the shit that's been taking place that should not be taking place. So you had this white woman in Texas. And I got a lot of listeners in Texas. I'm going to tell you something. I'm confident to say that this individual doesn't represent you. Just like this motherfucker that killed himself, which I'm happy that he killed himself in Florida, don't represent the majority in Florida. See, white supremacy doesn't represent all white folks. Let me say it again. It doesn't represent all white folks. And this comes on the day of the historical 60-year anniversary, the March on Washington. And I just don't, I'm not going to say I don't get it. What I'm going to say is that these motherfuckers just don't seem to understand it. So this woman in Texas, here's what the official document says. The following incident occurred during a phone call to the United States District Judge Tanya, I might say her last name wrong, but please apologize. I do apologize. I'm just adjusting my mic here. Chuckins Chambers in Washington, D.C. And this call came from Allen, Texas, using the phone number, and I'm going to say it because it's in the official public record, 832-537-2180, Shrey, and left a threatening voicemail intended for Judge Chuckins and mentioned United States Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, the LGBTQ community, and Democratic parties. On August 5th, 2023, at approximately 7:51 p.m. And oh, by the way, this bitch says that she was drinking, she's sorry, blah, blah, blah. No, wrong answer. When you drink, the truth comes out. When you drink, the truth comes out. So on August 5th, 2023, approximately 7:51 p.m., a call was received in the chambers of District of Columbia, United States District Judge Tanya Chuckin. According to the caller, who identification on the judge's phone call on the judge's phone came from that number that I listed once again, 832-537-2180. The caller introduction started out as, "Hey, you stupid slave nigger. Hey, you stupid slave nigger." After which the caller threatened to kill anyone who went after the former President Trump, including a direct threat to killing Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and all Democrats in Washington, D.C., and all people in the LGBTQ community. The caller further stated, "You are in our sights and we will kill you. And we want to kill Sheila Jackson Lee. If Trump doesn't get elected 2024, we'll be coming to kill you." So tread lightly, bitch. The caller continued to continue with their threats. You will be targeted personally, publicly, your family, all of it. I mean, this investigation determined that the phone number 832-537-2180 was issued to a cell phone number that was owned by Abigail Jo Schrey of Allen, Texas. Now, see, here is what we really need to understand. It was several years ago. There was a judge, a federal judge. There was attempted life. There was an attempt on her life by a guy. I think he was from California, but he had like a FedEx uniform on, like he was delivering something. Excuse me if I said FedEx, but some type of delivery uniform on. And the judge's son answered the door and was killed. And her husband was shot and injured. All because of hate. I call ultimate bullshit on white supremacy, because here's the thing. These folks are cowards. They can't do it without a firearm. They cannot do it without one. They can't do the one-on-one action, like I said before, knuckle up. Because, see, like I said before, when I was in the service, someone made a racial comment to me, and they were one-on-one. They forgot that their buddies wasn't around, and they got knocked the fuck out. You remember that show Friday? Ooh, you got knocked the fuck out. Well, guess what? You got knocked the fuck out because you just, it's almost like that little brawl in Alabama. The bottom line is this. All this rhetoric that is going on, like, for example, let me give you an example. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She went from talking about children being molested and all this other stuff to weaponization, to Joe Biden and corruption and etc. And oh, by the way, if you haven't seen that Tucker Carlson interview with Trump, I watched it in its entirety. It was painful, but I watched it. But not only does this motherfucker sound like he's singing when he talks, but I'll play some excerpts to that. But it's a remarkable how delusional some of these folks are and what they're doing, and they're causing havoc. And all these people that are following Trump and listening to Trump, and all you Trumpers, you go ahead and listen to him, and your ass is going to be in jail. Here you have this bitch, Marjorie Taylor Greene, from I think it's the 14th district in Georgia, who's talking shit about Bonnie Willis. And I'm not one to keep talking about violence, but this is what they're bringing to the table. Once again, if it's one-on-one, I guarantee you, if it was a different circumstances and Bonnie Willis was standing there, she'd probably smack the shit out of her. See, you give these dumbass people a platform and they stir up shit, and none of them will apologize or say anything that will stop the violence and stop these white supremacists from stepping forward. They're trying to bring the 60s back. They're trying to bring the 50s back. They're trying to bring the Jim Crow laws back. But it's not going to work. You want to know why? Because let me bring something to you folks that follow the Orange Man. Let me help you out a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit more on the other side, but let me hip you up to something. You dumb fucks. Just so you understand the jackassery. And I don't know if anyone watched the debate, but I watched that debate on Fox, and it was painful once again to listen to these motherfuckers. But I'll dive into that debate in a little bit. But here's something that's going to help you dumbasses out. 70% of Americans believe that Trump should not be running again. And of the 70%, 44% are Republicans. But they don't have a fucking spine to say something. They're not a John McCain. They're not a Bob Dole. They're not a Liz Cheney. They're none of those folks. So they don't know how to. And oh, by the way, why do they keep bringing up the Bush family? See, I served under the Reagan-Bush-Bush-Quell administration, and I had an opportunity to meet, at the time, Vice President Bush, and also being a Democrat myself, and being in the service, when Bush was elected president, I voted for him. Now, I didn't agree with all his policies, but here's what I'm going to say. He's a hell of a lot better than Geraldine, or whatever the hell her name was, Ferraro. We'll talk more about this on the other side, right after this.
Have you been looking for a podcast that takes you beyond the headlines? A show that challenges you. A show that's real, raw, and unapologetic. Then you've found your new home. Right, left, and center. Right, left, and center. News, the environment, immigration, politics, the criminal justice system, and everything in between. Join Will Jackson every week, your personal guide to understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Listen everywhere podcasts are available. You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
Listen to my story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars. The Beverly Hillbillies. Now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. They would like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. You're all invited back next week to this locality to have a heaping helping of their hospitality. Hillbilly, that is. Set a spell. Take your shoes off. Y'all come back now. Here?
It's debate night, but we're not in Milwaukee.
Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. You know, they were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. You know, in 2016, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way, and then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points, and I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate, I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass. As you probably know.
I'm grateful that you did.
That's how painful that shit is, to hear him talk. He sounds like he's singing, but he's a fucking liar. He is a liar. See, the thing about it is that all his indictments came from people testifying because they didn't want to go to jail. And by the way, they're all Republicans. They're all Republicans. And if he thinks that Georgia has his back, no, Georgia does not have his back. And if Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of these motherfuckers think that Georgia is going to execute that law that they have, that they can replace the DA at any time, they're not going to do that. Hell, the judge is not going to allow that to happen. And then you have these motherfuckers trying to move their cases from state to federal. But it still doesn't make any sense because Fani Willis and her team will move directly over to the federal courts to continue the prosecution. See, 4 plus 91 equals 45. And see, there's already a level of dissent happening because one, Trump is not helping the people out he said he was going to help. In fact, all you Trumpers who are being nickeled and dimed by him are so fucking dumb that you don't even understand that the money that you're giving to him is fueling his plane and also paying his legal fees. If he's actually someone if you're supporting him, then why aren't you supporting like your Eastmans or your Giuliani's? And oh, by the way, Giuliani is fucking practically in a doghouse because Trump wouldn't pay him the money he owes. Trump doesn't pay his attorneys. That is well publicized. And so here you have, like Giuliani, he's got his house, his apartment, or whatever the hell it is in New York, up for sale for $6 million. Because he's broke. He don't have the money. See, Giuliani, mark my words, him and along with a few other folks are going to start flipping like a fish out of water. They're going to start flipping. And when they do, Trump, if he really believes that he's going to walk away from this and continue to be able to hang out with a Tucker Carlson, that shit is going to be done. And I'm going to tell you something. Fonnie Willis is the one that's going to make sure that shit happens. Because she's not allowing people to be above the law. The first president, former president to be not only 2-time impeached, but indicted 4 times. We're still not talking about Letitia James. We're not talking about Alvin Bragg. We're not talking about Jack Smith. What these guys got on him. He already lost a case of sexual harassment, so basically he's a rapist that has to pay $5 million. And you folks are following him? And you're following him because you're just dumb. You just don't have a proper lease on life. You need a hobby. You need a fucking hobby. Here, listen to this. You can be a hobby on this. That's my weekend hobby to get me relaxed. I'm in so much fucking pain from what I hear in my ears and what I see in my eyes, and well, I do have a back problem, but but that just adds on to the fucking pain. See, all you folks out there who are white supremacists, and those of you have this ideology that is just like off the cuff, really need to take a step back, because I'm going to tell you something. There's been hundreds of people who are serving time right now because they followed Trump. There's attorneys that have lost their law license because they followed Trump. There are people who are owed money by Trump, who are lawyers, who follow Trump but are being left behind. And I forget that woman's name, who, this dumb bitch, she's now on DeSantis's team, Team DeSantis or Sanctimonious or whatever the hell Trump wants to call him. It's just remarkable. I mean, she's jumping around like a hoe. I don't get this. I mean, our democracy is at stake. And Liz Cheney, I love me some Liz Cheney. She's a boss bitch. I'm gonna tell you something. Wyoming, I've said it and I'll say it again. I know you guys are listening. I'm seeing my statistics, and there's a ton of you listening. You fucked up when you didn't reelect Liz Cheney. She is a boss bitch. She represented the Republican Party. She represented law and order, something that this Republican Party doesn't seem to hold true. And then you talk about this damn debate. The only one didn't raise their hand was Chris Christie. When asked the question, who would support Trump even if he's convicted? All of them raised their hand. And oh, by the way, it was like looking to the left, looking to the right, see who would raise their hand, including fucking Mike Pence, the same dumbass from Indiana. Indiana, this motherfucker lives in your state. He's giving you a bad name. And this fucking, I don't know what the fuck his name is, from Cincinnati. He's a wannabe Trump 2.0. He sounds fucking stupid. He doesn't have any fucking policy agendas. He's just talking out the side of his fucking neck. A young guy who just, got a little money in his pocket, and just wanted to be somebody. He stole the show. And let me tell you how dumb this debate was. This debate was so fucking dumb. If you really paid attention, you would know and understand that they were actually ignoring the attacks on Trump to elevate themselves. They didn't do themselves any favors. If you're trying to become the president of these United States and you're trying to win the primary and you're trying to be able to go up against Joe Biden, why in the hell would you raise your hand and say you want to support Trump? Why? Because you don't want to affect the white supremacy base. That's one. Two, you don't want to affect Trump's following and the evangelical support, the white evangelical support, I should say. Because here's the thing, that says a lot for that part of religion, because here's a man who's committed adultery, who, if asked what his favorite Bible verse is, or whether he likes the Old Testament or New Testament, and he equates it to, the art of the deal, who can't speak of a full sentence. No, by the way, when you hear him talk, he's hearing shit from what people have said or what he's heard. He always retweets something because Truth Social, whatever the hell that is, because he doesn't have a mind of his own. The motherfucker is just that damn dumb. Money doesn't make you smart, and Trump proves that. I mean, it's been proven that the motherfucker don't read briefs and reports and shit like that, which is very shocking that he would have all that shit in Georgia. I mean, in Florida. It's very crazy that he would have documents in the interview and talking about, oh, look at this, this is, on Iran or some whatever. I mean, I mean, it's amazing that he was able to do that, because the motherfucker just, for someone who's that damn rich or claim to be that damn rich, I'm never gonna say that I'm rich. I'm poor as fuck. I'm a poor man. And I'm not gonna pretend to be anything other than that. Because here's the thing, you Trumpers are following a motherfucker who just continues to lie. And you're that damn dumb. Like Jim Jordan. How in the fuck you gonna open, you know what you're gonna get from Alan Bragg? From Fonnie Willis, the same thing you got from Alan Bragg. Troy, Ohio, why in the fuck are you should be ashamed of yourselves to have someone like that come up out of your fucking town. I'm ashamed to even hear that motherfucker when they say Jim Jordan from Ohio. Oh my God. That's almost like, that's like someone just taking a tube and sticking it up your woohoo. I mean, seriously, it's painful to even think about. It's like going to the dentist and hearing that drill, shaving down your teeth or digging something out, man. I mean, Jim Jordan, you're a dumb fuck. I mean, seriously. I mean, when I said you were on my Sheldon list, motherfucker, you're beyond the Sheldon list. You are. You're going straight to hell. You are just a dumb motherfucker. Because Fonnie Willis is going to tell you the same thing. Kiss my black ass. I don't answer to you. I answer to the people who elect me, which are the people in Georgia. And she's going to do her job just like Alan Bragg, just like Letitia James, just like Jack Smith. See, nothing is weaponized. See, the thing is that you got your hands caught in a cookie jar. And you got people that are following you that get their hands caught in a cookie jar. That is just fact. And then you have the gun violence. You know, Trump was asked, and this is just a matter of statement. You know, I can't say it verbatim. I'm not going to play all of Trump. And I'm not playing any more because I don't want to hear this motherfucker's voice. Not on my cast. But basically, he was asked, was he worried about violence, civil war? That motherfucker couldn't answer the question. But I guarantee you, if a bunch of white supremacists decide that they want to start a civil war, they lost already. They lost already. I don't want our country to feel as though that, and a lot of my listeners, I don't want you to feel as though that that we should be worried. You should be worried that you need to go to your local gun shops and start stacking up on ammo and feeling as though that it's going to be a apocalypse of violent proportions and etc. It's not going to happen. Because we have enough folks in our communities that have grown and are grown up, that have enough civility and understand that the law is the law, that they will not even entertain it. It won't be entertained. And they will lose. Now, if anything, if you want to talk about something radical, well, here's my radical thought. Get rid of the fucking Supreme Court that we got going on. Why? because them motherfuckers are criminals. Just like Trump. Criminals. Wow. I got mine. I hope you got yours. I'm doing tequila tonight. More after this.
You're listening to Left, Right, and Center, your audio guide to help you understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
So, as promised, I'm going to talk about the gun violence piece because, that is the only thing that seems to continually to crop up. Because all these white supremacists, people from Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Lindsey Graham crime bitch ass, they're not focused on the facts. The fact is that we have 506 mass shootings this year, and this is according to Gun Violence Archives, GVA, and this doesn't include the Jacksonville shooting that happened this weekend. It doesn't include that. And when you talk about 506 mass shootings, that's a lot since January 1. That's a lot. Let me see here. This is August, right? So in August, we've had six mass shootings. Six mass shootings. And this is throughout the country. Now, I've said this and I've said this again, and I want everyone to go to GVA and look up their state and their cities, and then get a hold of your local congressional figures, state and federal, and ask them the same question I asked my dumbass representative who failed to even fucking respond yet. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm about to really I think I'm going to build a website just for his monkey ass. What's going on? See, here's the thing. Here's my thought. Now, hear me out. Now, I've said this time and time again, and I'll say it again. And I built off of one of my favorite listeners, number one listeners, Aaron L., who also resides in Ohio. And she came up when I first mentioned gun violence and etc. She said, well, why can't there just be a psychological test to go along with the training? Well, and then I build on that. And so I'll give her credit. She was very smart about even mentioning that, because that didn't even cross my mind. So my thought is this: you have your red flag laws, 1, 2, you turn around and you have to attend a 7-day class in which you have to pay for and that class is done by a state certified person who is certified by the state. And then during that week, you have to see what you have to pay for, as well a psychological evaluation that is done by the state. And then you also have to pass the written exam and also the firearm safety exam. And then, and not only that, you cannot purchase, you can purchase the weapon, but you can't get the weapon until all that's been completed. What's so difficult about that? That is not difficult at all. I'm just saying. And so when you look at this statistic here is something that really just trips me out. And this is mass murders. And once again, you can look at that and the GVA, Gun Violence Archives. You can go to gunviolencearchives.org and you can actually pull up this information yourself. And in fact, you can actually dive deeper into it to look at the homicide murder average. You can look at number of teens, number of children who have been killed or injured, officer-involved incidents, officers killed or injured. You can look at all that. And here's the thing. So I'm really diving into it because my beautiful daughter is now a Euclid Police Department officer with the Euclid Police Department just outside of Cleveland. And I've met some of the officers during her graduation, the chief of police and stuff. And I'm going to tell you something. They are some wonderful folks. And so I definitely support the police. I've got someone in the family who's close, who also is in the law enforcement. So I understand what law enforcement goes through. But what I don't understand is how we're not getting the support for our law enforcement community. Now, and like I said before, that, here's the thing. All law enforcement is not bad. It's not. It's almost like you live, like I said before, you're living on the street, you're living on the cul-de-sac, you got a knucklehead down the street who's a white supremacist. Doesn't make everyone in the neighborhood a white supremacist. Okay? That's just fact. Let's just keep it real. Let's keep it raw. The bottom line is this. Our society is conditioned in one way and one way only. And here we are 60 years later since the march. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen that Martin Luther King Jr.'s interview along with his wife and his 15-year-old daughter, who also gave a speech, which this young lady, very, very intelligent, and she's got a bright future in our society and being an activist, and I applaud her. And her grandfather would be very proud, and she's the only grandchild of Dr. Martin Luther King. So 60 years later, we are still fighting for that dream. And the thing about it is, here's the great thing about that march or the conference that happened in DC representing that 60-year mark of that march, is that you had white folks, you had black folks, you had Hispanic folks, you had Asian folks, you have LGBT community that was there representing. And the bottom line is that was nothing but love. Love. See, love is something that is missing. Now, yeah, I cuss and I, call people like Jim Jordan dumb fucks because actually they are. It doesn't mean that I don't love them as a human being. I just think that their mind is fucked up and they need some guidance. They need to be put back on track. And the way they can be put back on track, along with Trump and the rest of them, is that you just vote their monkey asses out of office, and so they can sit back and reflect that they did things wrong, and they went at things the wrong way. It's just that simple. You cannot continue to live like this and think that everything is going to be okay. Nothing lasts forever. There's only one thing that lasts forever. And I'll let you figure that one out. Final words. I'm ready to unwrap this shit right after this.
Have you been looking for a podcast that takes you beyond the headlines? A show that challenges you. A show that's real, raw, and unapologetic. Then you've found your new home. Right, left, and center. Right, left, and center. News, the environment, immigration, politics, the criminal justice system, and everything in between. Join Will Jackson every week, your personal guide to understand the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. Listen everywhere podcasts are available. Real, raw. This is Right, Left, and Center. Now, back to your host, Will Jackson.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. You know, I mean, having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry. And these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, you know, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
But have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure.
You should want to have an accurate election. And you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, I know you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes. You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden.
And that alone wins us the election by a lot. So.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on
White
Tuesday.
House Attorney Eric Hirschman testified that the next day, January 7th, he received a call from Dr. Eastman. Here is Mr. Hirschman's account of that call.
The day after, Eastman, I don't remember why he called me, or he texted me or called me, wanted to talk with me, and he said he couldn't reach others. And he started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal. And I said to him, "Are you out of your effing mind?" Right? I said, I only want to hear two words coming out of your mouth from now on. Orderly transition. And then he screamed, I said, I don't want to hear any other effing words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me. And I screamed, and eventually he said, orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him.
And that is from a Republican. See, it's written on the wall. And the bottom line is this. No matter which way you shape it, a lot of you Trumpers are following. I see these fuck Biden flags and Trump 2024. Trump is going to jail. And here's the reason why he's not going to beat 91 counts in 4 jurisdictions. Because the chances of him beating all these counts is slim to none. And his ass will be in jail along with all his knuckleheads who followed him, who broke the law. Like people like John Eastman. Okay, the bottom line is Fonnie Willis is ready to go. She had 2 years to present this case. And the great folks of Georgia, of Fulton County, Georgia, had voted to indict. You've got, what the hell is this guy's name? Let me see if I got my notes here. Stephen Ayers. This guy, so fucking dumb, he just listened to tweets. I mean, he read tweets and got online and decided to hop on the bandwagon to go to D.C. to do the insurrection. Because he assumed that the election was stolen. He was too dumb to understand the due process of that. And Mike Pence is too fucking dumb to actually stand up to the fact that he did the right thing and call Trump out on that. Because he's trying to be the Republican nominee to run for president. Chris Christie is just there to fuck shit up. I mean, that's just it. And then you have so-called constitutional scholars. And then you have fucking Rudy Giuliani. And then you have these idiots who actually decided to try to put pressure on Ruby Freeman and her beautiful daughter. These two beautiful women who decided to do their civic duty by serving as representatives to work as poll electors. And I hope that they're suing the shit out of everybody. And I'm surprised Dominion is not suing Trump like they sued Fox. There's a whole lot of lawsuits that should be happening right now because of all this crap that's going on. I'm going to tell you what, Nixon is probably sitting in his grave right now just like, what the, how can I get a do-over? Here's my final thoughts. The bottom line is the election was never stolen. White supremacy is not going to take a hold of our country because our country has become too diversified and too American. Don't listen to the rhetoric and the negative from people like Tucker Carlson and people from Fox News and anyone else who doesn't seem to want to bend to the truth, not bend away from the truth. The bottom line is this, and I'll say this time and time again. 4 + 91 = 45. Until next week, knuckleheads.
You've been listening to Right, Left, and Center. Real and raw talk about the week's news, the world, and how America shapes it. From Republicans to Democrats to progressives. We cover it all. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook. And for questions and comments, send your email to leftrc22@gmail.com. See you next time on Right, Left, and Center.